Well, it's a baseline of gratitude. Like when you really boil all of that down, you're thankful that your wife cut herself. And you're like, wait, what? I'm thankful that I didn't have a dad growing up. Wait, what? You would have rather had no dad? Well, no. That's not what I said. I said I'm thankful that I didn't because I was able to gain things from that. And I'm thankful for those things.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Tech Leaders Playbook. Today, I'm super pumped to have my man Chaz Wolfe, a serial entrepreneur, an investor with a very diverse portfolio spanning from real estate, home services, franchising, hospitality, and more importantly, a facilitator of an amazing mastermind group that I've heard of. Chaz, I met you during on your podcast, and I was so inspired that I kept my beard just so we can match each other's energy. My wife wasn't loving the do. But I said, you know what? For the show, we're gonna keep it, and then we'll trim it right after. Man, amazing. You have such a cool show. I enjoyed being on there. It was the first time I got to just really think and go deep. I don't know if you noticed that. It was a very interesting time in my life, and so I thought that was a lot of fun. So I asked you to be on my show. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you joining us, man.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm so glad that was the experience and that you grew out your beard and kept it for this moment. It reminds me, actually, it was like it was like maybe 7 or 8 years ago I grew out the beard for the first time. And my wife, Julie, was like, oh, no. And I'm like, look, I've got this goat hunt that I'm going on in October, okay? I'm not going on a freaking goat hunt without a beard, okay?
You got to do it. You need
to do it. And she was like, look, the next day you get back, it's gone, or I'm cutting it. And so I did. But this go around, she likes it, so we're here. It's in the brand now. Like, bro, I got stickers.
You got to do it.
Bro, I got stickers that have my beard. It's not going anywhere now.
It's not going anywhere. Too bad. We're past
Thanks
that
for having
point.
me, man.
No, man, I'm glad you have it. So your life story is definitely an extraordinary tale of transformation. Can you share with us like pivotal moments that shaped your journey from growing up, in a single parent household to becoming a very successful entrepreneur?
Yeah, man. I mean, that contrast is real. And I think actually for a lot of entrepreneurs, it's real, right? So like, I think most people who are probably listening to this are, either on the other side like we are maybe, or still in the process. I still think I'm still in the process too. So even when you introduce me like that, I'm like, I still feel like I'm on the journey. But
we all are.
The journey is real, So some of the things that I've, maybe utilized along the way might sound a little cliche, but I'm going to say them anyway because I think, just trying to execute on the cliche. I had a guy on my show like a year ago. He just said, you know what, Chaz, I'm just trying to execute on all the cliches. I'm like, oh, dude, yes. So some of the cliches that I try to operate on are, like mindset's everything, like you give what you get or you get what you give, So I've just really tried to plant good seeds. I've tried to recognize that my mind is probably the only thing I can truly control, followed quickly by my actions. And so my thoughts and beliefs are then what control my actions. My actions are what then control the result. And just like any young, ambitious person, especially that comes from nothing, I wanted more out of life. I just started at a young age working on the kind of the inner pieces. I grew up without a dad, but I never saw it as like something that I was missing. Or I never saw it as like a weakness or like that I didn't have a piece of the recipe. I was just always like, well, it's kind of his miss, not mine. Like I'm me. That's him. And so I can remember being as young as like 17, 18, not having any interest in school, but picking up, Think and Grow Rich and Magic and Thinking Big and How to Win Friends and Influence People and How to Have Power and Confidence in Dealing with People, How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling. Like this was me at 18, 19, 20,
wow.
21, just hundreds of books.
What got you to go there? Like what made you even as an 18-year-old, everybody's going to the gym, playing ball, going out, fooling around. Like what made you hunker down and do those things?
Yeah, well, it's two things. So first off, I do believe some of it is my DNA. Like it's just how I'm wired. Like I'm wired to want to achieve. And that just happened to be what the thing was in front of me that I could achieve at. But I remember, it's just kind of funny that you said like not going out and stuff like that. I remember being, probably 18, maybe 17, but I was working full time already. I kind of like said peace to school, although I did get my degree, but I said peace, high school that is. But I remember working full time and waking up early, like early to go to my first job before my second job. And I had these two buddies, super close buddies, and they would call me, and it was like 10 o'clock, not even that late, and I'm passed out. And I answered the phone, and they'd say, "You won't," and I would say, "You're right, I won't." Click, and I'd hang up. And what they meant by that was, you won't come out and hang or go to IHOP and just chill. And I was like, no, I'm interested in what I'm doing. And so, I was interested in winning. And for me at that time, winning was knowledge. Winning was making money because I didn't have any.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to solve the problems in front of me at that time, which then turned into just a bigger hunger. I was part of, kind of like a leadership training thing when I was younger, which kind of got me interested in leadership books and winning and Think and Grow Rich and stuff like that. So it's just been a long time. I mean, that was 18. I'm 36 now. So it's like darn near 20 years of not just like flippantly working on myself or personal development or my mind, but like really intentionally, like hungrily going after this thing. It's been a big part of why I've been able to achieve what I've achieved.
You emphasize a lot importance of grit to your success. How has that trait played a role in your ventures and your success so far in life?
Yeah, well, let's define what grit is. I'm a big big fan of defining what it is that we're talking about. Grit, or the definition of grit, really, I haven't looked it up recently, so I don't actually know it, but it's probably just the persistence of sticking something out. And it doesn't mean just like resiliency. Like I see resilience as like just keep going.
Keep going, yeah.
There's also a buoyancy to that, which is like I got knocked down, but I was willing to bounce back. Mm-hmm. And also buoyancy is like more problem solving, more like, okay, I'm going to keep going at it, but I'm going to try a different angle. When I used to teach sales process to hundreds, if not thousands of sales reps years ago, I would tell them an objection to me was just like an obstacle. Like I was either going to hop over it, I was going to go under it, I was going to go around it. And that's even kind of how I've walked through life in my faith. Avetis, I've got like this weird dynamic with God where he knows that he can put like a straight brick wall in front of me. Like, don't go this way. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to climb. I'm going to try to go around. I'm going to try to dig under it. I'm literally going to tap every single one of the bricks to see if there's a loose one. Like, not just like try. I'm going to check every single box. And I know this about me. He knows this about me. And so if he doesn't really want me to go somewhere, it is a solid brick wall. Otherwise, I'm going to find the hole and figure it out.
You're going to find a hole. I love how you said that. Yeah.
Let's go.
We'll figure it out. It's funny you said it's in our DNA, right? It's just we're made so different. I mean, you can't even siblings. Like my siblings are great, but they're very different than I am, and for the better and worse, right? I'm sure. But it's crazy. It doesn't
mean that we're perfect and they're not, right?
So Chaz, you run think tanks and masterminds. So I'll tell you, I'm at my mastermind group the other day. A bunch of brilliant guys, and we're. I asked them a question. I'm like, hey guys, I got this big project I'm considering doing. I'm going to be buying a home, tearing it down. It's on a big lot, and I'm going to build 6 to 10 homes on it. And they all gave advice. And one of the guys is like, look, man, I know how smart you are. I know how hardworking you are, but remember, you're not a builder. I know you've built homes before, but be really, really careful. And I was like, yeah, good advice. Guess what I did 2 days later?
Close the contract.
I closed the contract, so we're in escrow, and I'm going to do it. Not because I asked them for advice for a reason, but deep down inside, I was like, that's a challenge. You were right. I am not a builder. That's why I want to do it, because I've never built at this level. Is it going to cause stress? Absolutely. Do I have to step up and learn? Absolutely. Is it going to make me uncomfortable? Absolutely, in every way possible. But that's growth for sick people like us, right? That's how we roll, Yeah.
You say sick, I say crazy. We're talking about the same thing. We're just wired differently. And that doesn't mean necessarily that someone who wants more, that doesn't feel like they're just an idea person or just constantly kind of crazy like we are, that doesn't mean that they can't be successful. I think that we're obviously all designed a little differently. and success, quote unquote, or what we call in Gathering the Kings, the exceptional life, it just is winning in all areas. And so that looks differently for you or for me versus someone else, although yours and mine probably look a lot more similar
Yes.
than some of the other maybe wirings, but they can still live the exceptional life, right?
Absolutely. Speaking of living differently and having different interests, you are big on family and business, right? Balancing family commitments and business ambitions and the challenges that you face in doing that. Tell me about a time where you had to make a really tough decisions to balance these two aspects of your life. You know, because people think it's like work-life balance, like they describe, like there's a wall. Yeah. It's not like that. It's very fluid, right? Your work is your life is your work. It just, everything becomes, your family is part of your, your work, and your work is part of your family. It's all this stuff is mixed. So how do you deal with those two, keeping them separate yet, important factors flowing in the right direction?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a couple of examples, like hard-on things that probably people could relate to. My first business was an edible arrangements franchise. I ended up having 7 of those within a few years. I still own a couple of those. But I remember being like in the midst of, 7 locations. It's Valentine's Day. It is just a crazy time. Like, I said I wanted to prioritize my family. I had 7 locations, 3 states, 65 employees. I'm in my 20s and just spinning. And it's literally the 13th, okay? February 13th. It's the busiest day of the week of the year. I'm typically up at that time in my season of life. I was literally up from the 12th through the 14th, 2 or 3 days, no sleep, just straight working on dipping freaking strawberries in chocolate. And so I'm at Costco, and I had a special relationship with them because I bought just pallets and pallets and pallets of strawberries. And so it's like 3 a.m. and the stockyard folks in the back are letting me in to buy thousands of pounds of strawberries. And I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, that plant over there, that it's kind of got like a red bow on it. Can I get one of those too? And they're like, sure, why not? So I check out hundreds of flats of strawberries in this plant. I go home, I put the plant on the counter. I write a little note to my wife, happy Valentine's Day, I love you. I hop in the shower and I go back to work. I haven't been to sleep in a couple of days. And that, to me, in that season of my life, was all I could give. But it was still important. I still wanted to like note her. Now, there's been Valentine's Day where I haven't even done that.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to, paint the false, picture to some of your listeners that it's always, roses. But in that extreme example where I had been up for multiple days, I still wanted to see her. Now, it doesn't look like that today. Today, like actually this year I am going to go to one of my stores for Valentine's Day, but I'm going to take my 2 daughters. I'm going to take my 10-year-old and my 7-year-old, and they're going to dip strawberries with me. It's going to be fantastic. Another Amazing way to integrate family. We've got a family mastermind that we do through Gathering the Kings. We're literally this June, we're taking about 30 families. So entrepreneur, spouse, kids, we're going to Cancun. We're doing a family vacation. We're doing vacation with other entrepreneur families. And I'm bringing marriage coaches. So it's like we're doing it all together, all in the same place. And for me, yes, we get to go do it, but it's also business for me. It's like this is something I'm facilitating. But my family gets to be there with me. We're going to go a couple days early. We're going to stay a couple days on the end so that even though we're still there having fun with all the other families, we're still going to do our own thing before and after. And so it just really depends on what season that the entrepreneur is in. And you just got to recognize, like, there's been moments in my life where I see my kids as like, kiss you goodnight, and then I don't see you again until tomorrow I'm kissing you goodnight. And there's seasons where I'm in right now where like I don't miss 4:30 or 5 to 7:30 with them every single day. And we've got a routine, and we're reading the Bible, and we're praying, and we're like doing all the intentional things, we do their mirror talk, and I'm building up their human just like I was building myself up at 18, 19, 20. So it just depends on what season that you're in.
Yes, huge, man. Let's talk a little bit about that. The way you described that, it was as if it was something we all do and it's normal, and you just skip right past it. Tell me a little bit about that, because that is not normal, right?
Most you talking about the season or the time frame?
No, the family time, the praying, the mirroring, all that cool stuff. Tell us more, man, because you're speaking to a bunch of very busy people that. To them, not I get home at 7:30 is like, but I'm focused on my family for 2 hours is a big deal. Let's talk about that. That's huge.
Yeah, well, so that time frame for us now is generally speaking 4:30 or 5 until about 7:30 when they go to sleep. And I've got young kids, 10 and under. So that's basically what happens. The time frame there is in spent intentionally around A, dinner, B, having fun, right? That's just how as dads we connect. So it's a wrestle session, or it's I'm outside with my son shooting a bow, or I'm doing something with the girls, just intentional dad time. And just me coming down, I'm 6'5", they're not, and me getting
I
down
hope
on
not,
the
man.
floor. Yeah, hopefully never. But like getting down on their level and doing things, whether that's Uno. We were just playing a bunch of Uno this past weekend. And then our nighttime routine really is just a process of they've got a scorecard. All my employees have a scorecard. Why shouldn't my kids have a scorecard? I want them to know how to win, And so they have a nightly checklist that they work themselves through to get themselves ready for the next day, but then also just some bettering of them as a person. And so some of that's mirror talk. And so they've got this recited, memorized thing that they go through. I am strong, I am brave, those things. I love God and others, like certain affirmations that they're saying over themselves every single night. And even my little 4-year-old son, who can't even say all the words sometimes, is hilarious and wonderful. He says it. And I've got videos of my oldest, my daughter. I've got her up on the bathroom sink. She's looking in the mirror and she can barely talk. It's the cutest thing ever. I still hold on to the video. In fact, I've used it in some of my trainings, but she's walking herself through this mirror talk. And it's just incredible, talking about I am beautiful. And, I have, all these things that I know that she has that she doesn't know she has yet, but she will believe that she has them because I put them in front of her and she freaking reads them every single day of her life until she's a young adult, a young woman, and she's going to have confidence out of this world. She already does.
Wow.
So anyway, hopefully that's what you're looking for.
That's beautiful, man. Chaz, you know about the EOS model?
Oh yeah, we use EOS. Yeah.
Okay, so that's where the scorecards and the to-dos and all that great stuff comes from.
Go.
So I did an experiment. One day it hit me. I'm like, man, we have these great leadership meetings. I teach other people how to use it to guide their businesses, grow their businesses, change their lives. And then I thought one day, why don't we have this for families?
Yeah.
So during New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, I said, hey guys, today we're doing things very differently. I'm going to barbecue. We're going to have a great time. And then we're going to go in the back and I have a whole leadership summit for us. And they were like, what? What is this? I kept it a secret. We had this whole amazing session. And one of it was one thing, right? One thing I love about you, one thing that drives me crazy, or one thing that I'd love for you to change. Man, it was like tears in the room like you've never seen. I mean, it was incredible. It was genuinely life-changing. My intention was to do it again this year, and we just didn't get to it. Life was crazy, but what a great experience. I need to do it. I need to do it again. This was an annual thing, right? It was like annual an annual leadership summit you would have with your leadership team, but it wasn't intended for family. It worked out beautifully for the family. So we created our own family core values. We created our own kind of rocks and things like that. It was pretty amazing. Now,
that's good.
Keeping that going was definitely a challenge. As we get back to our crazy day-to-day activities, but it was awesome.
Just to
I need an
encourage
integrator.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hopefully you're I would say my wife is the integrator, but there's she's not as system oriented as my brain is.
Yes.
So it just comes a little bit more naturally to me. But so inside of that, I want to encourage you and all the listeners is that, man, just like EOS, you break that stuff down to a weekly thing and scorecards. And it works, man. We've had a weekly marriage meeting for a long time, but we just started integrating. We went from a monthly family meeting down to a weekly to kind of match the scorecards and stuff. And the kids, you just build in, okay, when you're thinking about in your business, what are the end results? Whether that's revenue or whether that's, I want to be on a certain amount of podcasts, whatever the target is that you're trying to go after in business. So, what are the behaviors that we need to encourage in order to make that happen? That's the scorecard.
Yep.
I'm thinking about my children, what are the behaviors? I want them to be polite. So I'm going to ask them to say, yes, mommy, yes, daddy, and they're going to get points for this. Or I'm going to have them have a nightly checklist. And because I don't want to have to say, all right, guys, like
Yep.
every 5 minutes, like it's time for bed now. And like, they're just like
Yep.
slothing over the floor, like I don't want to do that.
Smart.
Gotta
You
make it-
created a
make it-
system of it. That's awesome. What are some of the scorecards? I mean, you mentioned politeness and all that stuff. What are some examples of your older kids having scorecards?
Yeah, they can earn the point for that day if they let mommy know what their goal is for the day. That encourages them to have a goal. There's some in here. Oh, they can ask as far as what chore they can help with. They've got plenty of chores that they are on their list, but outside of that. Another one is to do something nice for a sibling. They lose points if they fight with their sibling. The yes mommy, the yes daddy I just told you about. The yes sir, yes ma'am is a little outdated, so we just use yes mommy, yes daddy. And plenty of others, more checklist type things, but practical and also ethereal in their mind, more philosophy based.
I dig it. We talked earlier about people have great ideas, right? Anybody could have a brilliant idea. It really comes down to execution, and with execution comes accountability and commitment, right? You speak about these superpowers of accountability and commitment. How have these qualities influenced your leadership style and your business decisions, as well as some of the other successful folks that you're surrounded by?
Yeah, well, so I can speak personally first and just say, look, man, when my name has been on the line, it's done. It's just, maybe it's the old school, old fashioned, it's my name. Maybe there's some pride wrapped up into that. I don't know. But my word is my bond. Like it is I'm not going to let it down for myself or for you. So I was here. I'm going to do it. I'm going to finish it. It's going to be well done. It's going to be excellent because that's who I am. So I think first off, anybody listening has to identify first as someone of excellence. Someone who commits and then follows through and then finishes, not barely, but well done all the way. And that's an identity thing. Now, for those that I've impacted, my family and or people on my team and or even other entrepreneurs, whether it be through the show or through the mastermind, it's like people want that. Like there's nobody listening who just heard me and was like, oh, I don't want that. Like everybody wants that. But it's a matter of how do I do it? Right. And so for me, I'm the wiring that I'm in, I'm a little bit more systems oriented. So it actually comes a little bit more natural for a profile like mine to finish. Right. But not everybody's wired like that. And so the things that we all have to pay attention to is that persistence, the grit that we just talked about 10 minutes ago. Because I still have to choose hard things, even though I'm maybe more naturally inclined to 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that I want to do number 3. So I still have to do it, even though maybe I don't want to do it, because I first have the identity of I'm a finisher and I do things with excellence and so forth and so on.
That's awesome, man. Speaking of, so you talked about my word is my bond. That's another big one for me, right? Talk about living cliches. I had a new manager start a couple years ago, and I said, hey, moving forward, this is the plan. These are the things you'll get when you achieve these. And she came back a day later and said, hey, do you mind putting that in an email and just so that we both, and I laughed. I said, look, I'm happy to put it in email, but let me tell you one thing about me that you shouldn't know yet, but you will very soon. My word is my bond. So I might email you a contract and you'll sign it. And if I feel that it wasn't appropriate, I will find a way out of that contract, but I will never find a way out of my word. So trust me. My word is my bond, but absolutely I'll put it in writing. That person has never since ever asked, hey, that's awesome. Can you please put it in writing? Because I always stuck to my word on those things. I'm big on my word is my bond and then commitment. I woke up last Sunday. It was Saturday night. I was excited I had just gone over to my brother's house. My family and we went and had a nice meal. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to sleep in tomorrow morning. It's Sunday, finally. And then I get an email. It was like, reminder about tomorrow's event. And I looked, I said, oh, shit. I committed to an 8 a.m. networking, personal kind of charity thing that I went to. I was like, I don't want to go to this thing, man. I'm not in the mood. I don't want to wake up at 7, shower, drive all the way to Pasadena. I went to my text message and I was like, did I commit to this? And I said, Yeah, man, I'll be there. Sorry, I couldn't make the gala. I said, I'm going to this thing. So I got my ass up again, dragging my feet. I don't want to go to this thing. Ended up being a really great event. I met someone amazing there. He and I became friends, and we're going to do some cool collaboration and things like that. And every time I do and I saw some people I knew, and it was extremely important for me to stick to my word, right? You talked about, that's my name. If I said I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Now, if there's a crazy emergency, anybody would understand, but I've learned, and this is a big burden sometimes, right? But if this is who you are, people eventually will never second guess your word,
Oh yeah.
or your
Which
commitments.
is like the note inside of your note is,
Yeah.
if you really are committed, like Avetis is, then you have to almost protect it by saying no more often than yes.
Yes.
Which then gives you the focus to be committed the way that you are. If you say yes to everything, then you're just kind of tossed and turned by the wind. I guess that there's a wave, or there's a season for that, right? Like where you have to say yes to everything, kind of get things going, but eventually it has to quickly, you have to start filtering, and that's how you do the family stuff. Like you can't do the family stuff unless you say no more often than yes.
And that's something I'm personally working on. Again, because I'm a giver, I like to say yes because it's important to someone that's asking me. And the biggest issue I have is it's always a month out. So I go, oh yeah, it'll be fun. It's a month out. But that day will come. And that day will come. I'm like, damn, I got to drive to downtown LA at 6 p.m. Oh man, what did I get myself into?
That's
so
right.
You're right. I'm learning to say no more often. And
you got to
that's
think
difficult.
of it as like who you're stealing from. If you say yes to them, that means you have to say no to somebody else. And so as you're looking at that date, you're like, ooh, that's a Thursday. And typically I'm daddy-daughter date on Thursday afternoons.
Yeah.
Sorry, dude. Especially if daddy-daughter is already in the calendar, even a month out.
If it's on a calendar, it's a hard no. The problem is, again, if you're not a calendar person when it comes to the personal life, you got that issue now, right? Because again, you forget, but it was important to someone. You missed it out. My wife and I were doing date night on Thursdays. We let that slide. That was very enjoyable. So I got to get that back. So as a sports enthusiast, I'm always comparing sports and business. And I know you're a big fan. I think you're a University of Kansas basketball fan, right?
Yeah. It's right here near Kansas City. So I've been over to the Allen Fieldhouse many times.
Nice, man. What parallels do you see between sports and business and team in terms of team and leadership and team building and all that stuff?
Yeah, I think that probably the easiest one, especially using basketball, is that that each person has a different role. Even when I played, I as a 6'5" skinny kid, I was a three shooting guard. Sometimes I played a 4 because I had quick feet. But I wasn't the point guard, which means I wasn't calling the play. Mm-hmm. But most often I was kind of in the background. The 3-4 is kind of a little bit of a hidden position, especially on defense. And so what I could do is I could talk. I could, hey, this is happening, that's happening. I'm really good at anticipation and kind of seeing the floor. And so I was able to use my not only personal skill sets, but then also my position to know my role. And I wasn't calling the plays. That was being told what to do when it came to the person calling the play. But I could also be of assistance in the play. I could be a support player, especially again like on defense, whether it's my time to shoot the ball or whether it was, hey, middle. Everybody is owning each position, and I think the same thing works in a business. We don't need 15 entrepreneurs. That would be a mess. It'd be an absolute chaotic mess. We need 1, maybe 2. And really, the rest have to be, systems and or process people, because nothing will ever get done. That's probably why there's not a whole lot of us. Because if there was a whole lot of us, we'd all be working together, and nothing would ever get done. We'd talk about all of our great ideas.
You know what's cool though, Chaz? This is one thing I've noticed when you're in a room full of. I guess you would, call leaders, but not necessarily real leaders. What ends up happening is everybody wants to be the chief, right?
Yeah.
So this is an outdated concept, but nobody wants to be the role player. And that's a problem. But what I've noticed is when I'm in the right room, surrounded by people that are great, sometimes we actually enjoy stepping back and not leading. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yes.
Sometimes I just sit back and I'm like, this is good. Like, I don't have to lead. Look at these people go, and then I got to step in sometimes and say, oh man, some of these guys are running businesses 5 times bigger than mine, but that's okay. They need my leadership right now. And I'll step in, and sometimes I'll just step out and I'll be just the role player. I love it, man. I actually really enjoy it. I learned that about myself, because always being the leader in a room is exhausting. So if you're in the right room, sometimes just step back and just be, I don't want to say the follower, just be the role player. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Just be, period.
There's a concept here, and I've done some content on this concept, but that you're the guy. In essence, that's what you're saying. When I think about my life, very similar to you, where I've always been the guy, right? Like in my family, I'm the guy. Even growing up, single mom family, I was the guy, taking care of things. I'm the guy in my business. I'm the guy in my group of friends at church or wherever. Like, there's never been a scenario where I've not been the guy. And so if I can be part of a group, and this is, again, why Gathering the Kings exists. I know you've got a group that you attend and that you were kind of just mentioning, which is the power of it, is that if I can just be a guy, not the guy, there's actually, especially for high drivers, where I am the guy in every single area of my life, it's okay every now and then to go, and you can hit the off switch. Right.
So nice.
Now, it doesn't mean that just by being on that you're not you, and off and on is like fake and not real. That's not what I mean. I mean, like, again, Gathering the Kings, like I use the analogy, I use the language. It's like you take off your crown, the weight, like, it's gold. It's got jewels in it. It's heavy.
Yeah.
The weight of responsibility, all the people that are counting on you, all the things that you're in charge of. It's like, just take it off, set it down. You take yours off. He takes his off, and we can just be right here.
We can just be. I like that. That's really great, man. It's sometimes not safe to talk about faith, right? Especially when you're in California. It's a weird thing. I can assure you this is a safe place for you to talk about your faith. So I want to talk a little bit about that. I know for you it's played a significant role in your life.
Yeah.
How has it informed and guided you as a businessman, a father and a leader in the community?
Yeah, well, so I think faith can be defined in a couple of different ways. Do I call myself a religious person? No. Do I call myself a spiritual person? No. What I like is to know who I am, and I know that I was created by the Creator of all heaven and earth, and I'm created in His image, and that makes me a creator and a builder, and I have full confidence in knowing that I can go create a business, a team, a podcast, a marriage, my children, and I get full on like, this is what I'm made for, right? So for me, faith is taking action in those areas, knowing this is what I've made for. Now, yes, do I have a relationship with God? Do I commune with, this idea of that there's something bigger than me and I'm a part of something? Of course. I didn't create anything other than the things that I've created, right? I didn't create me, is what I'm trying to say. And so yeah, inside of faith, for me, it's, yes, I first have to submit myself to something bigger. And then I can recognize the confidence and the power that comes from being connected that way, so that I can lead my wife and my children, so that I can lead my businesses, and so that I can be an influencer or influential person in the marketplace, whether it be on the podcast or with other business owners or whatever. So for a lot of it has to do with identity for me, just kind of knowing who I am, whose I am, as you might say. But yeah, man, it comes down to me knowing, look, there's a place after death.
Yep.
And I want to go there. His name is Jesus, and I'm okay with that. And like, that's the end of the story for me. But like, while I'm here, gosh, there is so much power in being connected to who I am and who He's created me to be and who I'm becoming, Yeah,
it's nice to know that there's something bigger than you. I think you nailed it. And I use that in a way where if something goes wrong, I just go, it wasn't meant to be. If a deal doesn't work out, it wasn't meant to be. If something bad happens, it wasn't meant to be. One time I was having the worst day ever. I went and and I backed up. I was so tired. I wanted to get home, and I smashed into a wall and took out like my entire mirror. And I was just having the worst day, man. I was like so upset.
Were you driving the Ferrari that day?
No, I wish, man. No Ferrari. So it was my Dodge truck. I bashed my mirror in, and I was like, damn it. It was a nearly brand new car. It's the last thing I needed. I just said, you know what? God intended me not to be on that road.
Yeah, exactly.
My wife recently cut her hand. I mean, the most gnarly thing you've ever seen, and she's going through a lot. And I'm just like, you know what? God didn't want you to do the next thing you were going to do, whatever it was, that was going to be a lot worse. Maybe you guys were going to get on the road and go somewhere together, my kids and her. But it's a weird way to look at things, but it just makes you feel like it's all good, versus constantly becoming a victim or being upset or forcing things that shouldn't be, right?
That's right.
Forcing things.
Well, it's a baseline of gratitude. Like when you really boil all of that down, you're thankful that your wife cut herself. And you're like, wait, what? I'm thankful that I didn't have a dad growing up. Wait, what? You would have rather had no dad? Well, no. That's not what I said. I said, I'm thankful that I didn't, because I was able to gain things from that. And I'm thankful for those things. I'm thankful that my wife cut her hand, because potentially there were other harmful things coming to us, and it slowed us down, and we didn't get into the car fast enough, and maybe we were going to get in a car accident. I don't know. The point is that I'm grateful. Like if I can have a true sense of going, oh, thank you.
And knowing something's bigger than you is just humility, period, right? Because sometimes we get a little full of ourselves and we think we run things, but it's not the way it works. What's the saying? You plan, God laughs.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that is a saying, and I think that's true and funny. I like to think of it as, the Bible says that we can make the plan, but He orders the steps.
There you go.
It's like, so I can make the plans all day long, but if I'm not asking or in tune with the guidance piece of it, then I'm literally just planning for no reason. I'm just off doing my own thing, and I don't like how that turns out. I want to make plans in accordance to how He's ordering my steps, because I think they work in tandem, like you're saying.
I dig it. I'm a big book guy. Most people that watch this show probably are book people. Give me top 3 books, or it could be all time, or it could be just 3 books you like right now that that you want us to read.
Yeah, well, we've already referenced the Bible a couple of times here. Over the course of time, I'm super high logic, so I have not always enjoyed reading the Bible, because it's a big story.
Yeah.
And once I think I wrapped my brain, actually what unlocked it for me was reading the storybook Bible with my kids. It just made it simple for me, and I started to understand it. It was pretty cool. Anyway, outside of that, Think and Grow Rich is by far number 1. If you haven't read that book and you're listening to this, you need to stop everything. If you have, you should read it again. It's the only book I read other than the Bible every single year, and usually I read it a couple times.
Really?
It is. I just got a new copy because I tore apart the other one. I mean, I've been on multiple elk hunts, and in fact, just last year, or maybe it was the year before, my brother-in-law was like, "We're in the wilderness, like 5 miles deep into the wilderness," and I'm reading, because we're taking a break, and my brother's like, "What are you reading?" I'm like, "Think and Grow Rich." He's like, "Oh, like I don't get you,
Yeah. Why are you reading that book?
The 17th time I've read it, and I'm highlighted, and I've got notes, and I'm taking notes in my phone, and
it's crazy
because it hits you different every single time.
It does.
And
it does. The more you know, right?
The more you know, and the more you realize you don't know yet. Number 2 would be Atomic Habits. Just finished that one up again. Such a great book. And number 3, I'm going to say Learned Optimism. There's a lot of things that come down to either optimism or pessimism, and that book, although very technical, is probably one of the best books I've ever read.
I'm going to get it on Libby right now.
There you go. One that you haven't probably heard of.
One time I had told somebody I read a book a week, and she was so impressed. It was one of my team members, and I said, "Hold up! I didn't say I always finish them. I'm the guy that'll have 3 books going on at the same time." Right? Because one is for this, one is for that, and then somebody else tells me a new book, I'll go get that. What was it? Learned
Optimism.
Done.
Yeah, and it's a great book, but it's very technical. So I gotta just warn you, push through that, especially since if you're not a book finisher, push through it. It's worth it. There's a survey in there too that'll help you kind of understand how
I
optimistic you
almost
are.
always finish. I almost always finish unless the book
Good.
is not good. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
I will take new books, go there, and then come back and finish.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. Like right now, I'm in a book club. One of my mastermind members is doing a book club, and so I joined that. And so I'm listening while I work out to that book. While I get ready, I'm always listening to something from Napoleon Hill. So he's got Think and Grow Rich. He's got Master Key to Riches, Laws of Success. Like I could go on and on, but I'm always listening to something from Think and Grow Rich material while I'm getting ready. And then I'm reading right now, physically, a physical copy, Brad Lee's book. I'm having him on my show tomorrow, so
Nice.
just inundating myself with his book right now.
I dig it. Looking ahead, what's next? What are new ventures or projects that excite you, and how do you align them with your mission of creating and living the exceptional life, as you say?
Yeah, so living the exceptional life is winning in all areas. So we got business and finance, marriage, faith, health, and lifestyle. So the cool things that I'm working on right now inside of business, on our construction company, we're going to be adding a whole new division this next coming year. We're super excited about that. And then inside of Gathering the Kings, like that's my life's mission. Gathering the Kings is who I'm made to be. I am made to gather kings, make the complex simple so good decisions can be made. And so that's really what we're about. We're trying to go to another, probably skip over 5 or 6 levels with Gathering the Kings as a brand, but also as a mastermind group, just attracting just incredible entrepreneurs. We've already done so well with that, but I just want to grow that,
Heck yeah.
bringing on new people and stuff like that. But inside of the team, inside of my family, I already kind of mentioned the family mastermind, but we're going to do it's our second one, but this will be last year was kind of a little bit of a test. It went so good. And we're going to be in Cancun. Like I said, about 30 families or so probably end up being with us. And just looking to do life, family, business, health, fitness, faith all together and just winning in all areas and surrounding myself with people who are also doing it.
That's awesome, man. Speaking of Gathering the Kings, I think you've interviewed over 400 high-performing entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Minus me. What common threads have you found among these successful entrepreneurs globally?
Yeah. Well,
Give me 3
there's
if
a
you
lot
can.
of. Yeah. Okay. Well, there's a desire in all of them, and Think and Grow Rich breaks this down as well. But there is an immense desire that eventually works itself into what Think and Grow Rich calls a definiteness of purpose, right? So I can have the desire for more. I want more. But if I don't have something very, very specific that I'm obsessed with, like I just said, I just gave you 2 very good, clear things. Construction company, which is real estate and construction is part of my play. And the other is raising up other people. Like that's what I'm made for, those 2 pieces, part of my legacy. And so I'm super clear on that. And then therefore I can be obsessed. So they're obsessed or clear, or they have a desire and it's defined, really is probably the most common thing. The second thing is that they are still doing it. That might sound kind of crazy. That doesn't mean that meaning like they haven't sold their business, they're doing the same business. That's not what I mean. They're still in the game. I've interviewed young guys, older guys, and they're still in the game. In fact, what they're doing is they're playing something not infinite, like making this amount of money or achieving this amount of revenue or whatever. It's an infinite game that I just want to keep playing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to keep winning. That's what winning in all areas means, is that like I can define what winning in business looks like right now, but next year that better be different, right? It's an infinite game. I've changed the rules. I just now want to keep playing. I don't want to ever stop playing. And number 3, they're executors. Now, they particularly may not be a good executor. Like their personality may not be one that crosses T's, dots I's, always finishes the book. But they have put people around themselves that are executors.
Exactly.
So you either need to be an executor or you got to put executors around you, because otherwise nothing ever gets done.
Boom. Done. You heard it. You heard it for Mr. Wolfe right here, one of the biggest kings we know. Where do people find you if they want to be a part of the mastermind? They want to go to this Cancun thing. They want to be on your podcast. They want to learn from you.
Yeah, go to gatheringthekings.com. Everything's right there. And we've got different membership levels. If you're just getting started in your business journey, cool. If you've been a business owner and you're doing hundreds of millions, cool. we've got a spot for everybody that makes sense for what table that you're sitting at.
I dig it. Hey, man, thank you so much for being here and spitting so much knowledge our way and sharing your very unique perspective. I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you having me here. It's been an honor. Thank you.
We got to get together. Next time you're on the West Coast, maybe Vegas. Maybe
man.
I'll fly to Kansas and we'll grab dinner.
Sounds good, man.
See you, man. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate you.
And that brings us to the end of another great episode of the Tech Leaders Playbook. I want to thank you for joining us and I hope you took away some valuable insights to apply in your professional journey. Don't forget to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform so you don't miss out on the next great conversation. I promise it'll be good. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate if you could leave us a review. Your feedback not only helps us improve, but also help others discover the podcast. Better leaders mean better working environments. Better working environments leads to happier people. Remember, a rising tide lifts all boats. I'm Avetis Antaplyan, and this has been the Tech Leaders Playbook. Keep leading, keep learning, keep giving, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, stay inspired, my friends.